19th Merrimack Conservation Commission meeting. We have no public comment. Looks like all appointments.
Yep.
Okay. No hearings or appointments, so we will start with the first.
Do you want to designate people to sit in?
Yes, yeah. So we do have a few people absent this evening, both the Mikes and Pete Albert.
That's who sat in last time.
So Eric, if you could sit in as a voting member tonight, and everybody else is a full member, so that will bring us whole. So now into the first piece of advisory business. OVP management, yeah.
Yeah, I think this one's on.
Oh, there you go.
Is that on now? Yep. Red light.
Sign in. Are you gonna need the easel or?
No, I think everybody has 11 by 17s. Yep, I think it's pretty straightforward. So my name's Bill Davidson from Hoyle Tanner. We were here in front of you guys last year at some point when we were doing the redevelopment. This is the old Shaw's Plaza. Hopefully everybody's been around enough in Merrimack to realize what kind of a big deal this is for the redevelopment of that site. It's been a long time coming, and they've been pretty successful so far and have some good tenants in there. So this portion of the project is up behind the retail, up on the hill, and they are putting in an apartment complex there. Probably the easiest way to see it is on sheet C5. And it's a three-story apartment building. I believe there's 40 apartment units there. There'll be a driveway off the back of the parking and going up along to that proposed three-story parking lot. Three-story apartment building with a parking lot. There's probably what we're going to talk about most today, I would imagine, is there is a stormwater chamber system that's up in the top in that parking lot. There's also another one that's down below that's at the entrance of the driveway to that apartment building. And I want to apologize. Last time we were here, there was some pretty easy notes that we had to add on. One of them, I believe, was the fertilizers. It was either low phosphate or it might even have been no phosphate. And that did not carry over from the previous project. So that is something I know we have to address, and that's a typical one that you guys usually ask for. And I had asked that it get carried through, and it just didn't. And so that was a mistake on our part. So there's fairly steep grade there going up that hill. We do have some ditch work and drainage that's going on there. That's coming out and bringing all the drainage down to the lower portion on the southern portion of the parking lot by the driveway entrance. And like I said, there's a upper portion that catches the parking lot. Then it comes through a closed drainage system down to the lower stormwater chamber system. And both of these chamber systems, like the previous one that we did in the front, have overflow systems, and then they go out through there's an existing 24-inch RCP that goes out to DW Highway. So I don't know if there's any specific questions that people have. It is in the aquifer. It is in the aquifer district, but I can hopefully answer any questions that you have.
You actually did get the no phosphate in here.
Oh, did we? Good.
On page C2, line 7, I see it, so hopefully you
Okay,
have
so
that.
that may be there, but I know we have a detail in the back. I was looking at it today with the erosion control, and we still have the 10-10-10 for the fertilizer. So I'll make sure we change that.
Okay, and if you didn't already catch it, if you have any reference to hay, you want to change that
Yeah,
to
that's
straw?
all straw. Yep.
So if you're looking for the wording that we're interested in, it's no phosphorus, slow release nitrogen. Yeah, no phosphorus, sorry.
So that's similar to what they do in the shoreline protection for DES.
Right, this is on the aquifer protection, that's why we go to no
Yep.
phosphate.
So I can explain while you guys are looking at the plans or trying to see if you have any questions. I can explain a little bit. I did last time as well about the stormwater chamber systems. So this particular project is, we've submitted an alteration of terrain permit to DES. So they go through, look at all the stormwater calculations, erosion control and such. So that permit has been, the application has been submitted. They typically have about 75 days to review that, so we have a little bit of time on that. But for the treatment that we have for the stormwater chamber systems, all our catch basins are offline. So what they do is they all feed into a main drain line. So we have deep sumps, 4-foot sumps, catch any sediment, debris in the catch basins, and then they go to a drain manhole that doesn't, the main line does not have a sump. But what that allows is, old school, we didn't really do offline catch basins. So what would happen is your main flow would come through that catch basin, and if the catch basin wasn't maintained or there was a lot of sediment load in it, every time that main flow would come by, it would stir up that sediment and carry it downstream. So what we do now is we have deep sumps and they're offline, so it has a better chance of catching that. So when the main flow goes in, the sediment's already trapped out of it. So that's considered pre-treatment with alteration of terrain. So we try to do that. There's some other ways to do it, but we found construction-wise that works pretty well, because, depending on who it is, the developer or even municipality, sometimes the maintenance schedule that they have for cleaning that, gets skipped or missed or, gets extended for whatever reason. So this seems to be a better way to do that, from our experience. So then that main flow goes into the stormwater chamber system. The stormwater chamber system has an isolator row, which basically takes the first flush, and it has fabric around it. So that if we get any sediment, debris, anything like that, and it builds up, there's observation ports that you can open up and look down and see if there's sediment buildup, and then they can go in and they can clean that. So that's in the first row of that chamber system. So it doesn't flow out into the rest of the chamber, and if there is sediment, it wouldn't clog that. So it's another line of defense for the chamber system. The soils on site are extremely sandy soils. I think everybody's pretty much aware of that one. So very good from an infiltration standpoint. So again, I can answer any questions if anybody has.
Is there any future thought of any kind of steps down into the park and down to the plaza?
Yeah, we're gonna have
Pedestrian
there's gonna
traffic.
be a sidewalk there, which is, right now, it's currently at 10%. We're having conversations with the fire department right now.
Yeah, this is a grade and a half.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good hill. I mean, 10%, so we're looking at this as a driveway. Obviously, the road standards are 8%. We look at this as a driveway. We talked with the fire department. They'd like us to lessen that grade. So we're looking at doing 8% on that driveway and have a sidewalk that comes down along it. So we're going to bring a sidewalk down to get everybody back to the shopping center. we're assuming most people that are living up there, and we've had conversations with the client who does this type of development, and he said very, very rare that people are gonna walk down there. They're gonna take their vehicle and go down and do whatever they want, stay at the, Thirsty Moose or whatever, and then drive back up. So he doesn't really see that there's gonna be a lot. I mean, we are putting a sidewalk in there, but I don't think there will be stairs down that slope to the back of the building, I guess, to answer your question.
And there's no long-term thought of connecting through up to Columbia Circle or anything that's gonna
Yeah,
stay?
there is. We've actually looked into that, cause it's, I think it's Rainbow Condominiums there.
Yep.
And there is one spot that is just below where the cell tower is, that would, and this would be for emergency
Yep,
vehicles
okay.
or whatever. It wouldn't have anything to do with people being able to go back and forth. It would be gate. But we have not been able to actually even contact that owner. I know the client had tried when we first started doing this development, and they were thinking about that. They tried to get hold of them and couldn't get hold of them. So we again reached out and have tried to get hold of them and have been unsuccessful at the moment. I think that's gonna be a difficult thing to do. We're still gonna try to do it, but I'm not sure how that's gonna work out.
This is the stormwater reports, okay?
Does the gutter system around the building, around the 3-story building, does that,
Yeah, we're assuming that does go into the closed drainage system.
okay,
Mostly with these type of developments, they have a roof leader that comes down. Occasionally, you'll see one with, like a drip edge type thing, but most of them are in roof leaders, and we have that tied into the closed drainage system. That comes into the infiltration chambers as well.
What's the, must have some kind of plan for snow removal?
There is snow storage is shown on the plans.
Right, yep, on the side there. Yep. C6. That single space that's gonna be for the whole site?
No, that's actually, if you look at that clouded area that's shown there, that's the typical snow storage. But if you look to the west of the parking lot, all off the edge of the parking lot and then wrapped all the way around,
Oh, okay.
that's that clouded area.
Is all snow storage?
Yeah, it could probably be called out a little bit.
Okay.
Inconvenient to go all the way around.
Yep.
It seemed inconvenient to take it all the way around, yeah.
That hill's gonna be interesting in the winter.
Yeah.
There's actually, at one time, there's actually an old road that's, you can kind of see it on the topo. It's a little bit higher, a little bit more to the west of where our drive is coming in. But when they took all the sand out of here, we did a bunch of test pits up on top, and I got the impression that they had brought some material back in. They used this as a borrow, this is my understanding of how it worked, but they had a borrow pit here that they were hauling off from the DW highway, from the Effie Everett, from Effie Everett, and pulling out trucks out that way with the sand. And then they brought back a different material. It's still good sandy material, but it's just different than, I actually grew up in Merrimack and moved here in the late 70s, and I remember when they took this whole piece out of here, and there was, literally that face in the back was probably 40 or 50 feet high that they were taking that out of. And then once we got up in here and started digging test pits, I'm like, geez, I can't imagine they were hauling this out. And I couldn't see that all the trees that are up in here are quite grown up, so you can't really see where they went through. But my guess is that they pulled some material out on the FE Everett. It seems like it'd be the only way that they did it.
Actually, if I recall, most of that went down to Logan,
Yeah.
down to the airport, I
Yep,
thought.
that's what I heard too.
Yeah.
The infiltration basin that's under the that's under the parking lot,
Yep.
there's, am I just not seeing this? Gotta be maintenance, holes for maintenance plan
Yeah,
for
there's
it?
observation, if you go to on C18, C18 talks about the inspection ports as a detail 4 on C18. That tells you about them. And then there's also a detail on 1 and 2 that shows you a little bit of the layout with the isolator row that I was mentioning earlier.
So that entire parking lot pad up behind the building is gonna be sort of pitched to center?
Yes, yes, if you look on, I think it's C5, has the drainage, excuse me, C7.
Okay.
So, most of the interior there of that upper parking lot all drains to that
To the center.
chamber system.
Okay.
Quite a view from the 3rd story looking.
I was just
be.
thinking that.
Could be.
Yeah, that's right. Especially if you're looking east, right?
Yeah.
Get the sun in the morning and then great views.
Riverview. Okay, maybe not river, but.
It seems like we're doing more of these projects that are like mixed-use projects. It seems to be much more popular the last couple of years.
Just thinking of the traffic on Daniels Highway, the, 5 o'clock now.
At least it's not a new light.
Yeah.
It's not a new traffic light, so. Remember that when the only traffic light in town was right down the hill here. So, and then came Pettichuk Square, and then it was all over after that. Oh, well. As they say, those were the days, right?
Yeah, this is, pretty straightforward.
Yep, it is pretty straightforward, so.
Green snow probe. Because that's gonna require, I can't imagine that not requiring some type of de-icing compound, that whole hill. It's gonna have to be fairly aggressive.
Yeah, they're gonna have the same, from what I've heard, they're gonna have the same company that does the retail do this as well for the plowing and maintenance of it. One good thing about it is, so typically on a I don't wanna get caught by saying steeper road, but generally on a steeper grade that they have, you try not to design it on the north side. We're on the south side, so we're gonna get sun, we're gonna get some good sun, so, we should be fine in that regard.
Yeah, there won't be any trees really blocking it either, so.
The only thing that I have for a letter is the no phosphorus, low release nitrogen. Is there anything else you can think of?
Just the green,
Green snow
that's,
certification.
yes, the green snow probe certification. Obviously, they're gonna use the company down below, but that's still,
Which one is that? So the contractor has to be, the green snow pro?
We recommend the contractor be Green Snow Pro certified.
Yep.
That allows for some liability relief on your own part, on their part, for if something does happen. They have some, some relief from the state.
Yep.
But it also, obviously, in the aquifer protection, it grants us a little bit of ease too, that they're not gonna be oversalting or using harsh chemicals, so.
So when do you go before the planning board?
We are going on the planning board September 17th, I believe it is.
Thank you.
I never got that.
Only you got those, Gage.
Yeah, I was done the next night.
It's not on my calendar, but I believe it's September 17th.
Do you, in the planting schedule, do you do any proposed soil testing before you fertilize? I mean, you're bringing, there's a lot of sand and stuff up there, so I'm sure that most of that stuff you're bringing in for soil, right?
Yeah, we haven't, let's see if there's plenty of things. We haven't, I don't believe that we've called that out for soil testing.
It's not really a requirement for us, we just like to tell, obviously if you can test your soil, you may not need to spend the money on the fertilizer if you've got everything there you need,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, typically, the ones that we focus on is the contractor owns it, whoever the landscaper is,
Right.
owns it for a year. So that means they have to go up there and water it and take care of it and get it established. We can add something about that, about soils testing. I'm sure they would probably do that anyways, but we can add that.
Yes, some of the landscapers do already, because it's cheaper than over fertilizing.
Yep.
So. Really nice, you saw the plant list, it's a pretty innocuous
Yeah.
local list, nice.
Does anybody have anything else?
Yeah, for someone who doesn't know much about architecture, do you have any idea when the date of acceptance would be?
The what acceptance?
Date of acceptance,
Oh, for at the planning board?
yeah,
Last time that we were at the planning board, we were accepted. So you're talking about the new code regulations? Is that what you're thinking of?
yeah, well, the reason why I'm asking is because, number 4 in the landscape notes says, landscape contractor shall guarantee all plant materials for 1 full year from date of acceptance.
Oh, yeah, so that's gonna be the date of acceptance from when so that's not related with the planning board. So that's once they plant this and get this in and they finish their landscaping, that's the date of acceptance for the client, for the owner of this project. So it's not linked so much to the planning board or anything town related as it is to when they actually plant, when they actually put the tree in.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate your time.
Kind of followed around like that, I never thought about being a building up there. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mark Verostic. I'm a senior project engineer with VHB. I guess I'll sign in real quick. And with me tonight is Tom Monahan from the Monahan Companies and Terry Field with Lacessi Development. We're here to give the Conservation Commission an update on the Park Place project off of the Premium Outlet Boulevard site. Currently, the project is before the planning board for a site plan amendment. The project received site plan approval back in March of 2018. I'll give you a kind of a brief history of the permitting since we started the project. We were here originally before the Conservation Commission in November of 2017. For some wetland impacts that are associated with a roundabout. And we received the DES dredge and fill permit in December of 2017. We were back before the commission in January of 2018 for the actual site plan because we're within the Aquifer Conservation District and Wellhead Protection Area. And as I said, we received site plan approval in March of 2018. Since that time, the Lacessi Development Group has become involved with the residential component of the project, and based on their building footprint and the development that they'd like to see move forward, we've gone back to the planning board. We've gotten an amendment to our planned use development to allow 224 units, residential units, as opposed to the 192 that was originally in the site plan approval. So that has been approved, and the next step in the process is to amend the site plan approval. So we've gone before the planning board on August 6th. They've accepted the application, and they've continued us to, I believe it's the September 17th board meeting. The 3rd. September 3rd meeting, thank you. So that's a brief kind of summary of the permitting history here. We also received an alteration of terrain permit for the project in August of 2018. We're not proposing any changes to the wetland impacts. In fact, the roundabout and the access into the site hasn't changed at all. It's really the layout within the site itself. And I have the original plan here. I can bring up to kind of show the changes from what's currently approved to what we're proposing now. So the proposed, should I take the microphone with me if I want to point to the board?
You just turn that other one on and drag it over.
The other one.
Yeah, just kind of drag it over.
So this is the current proposed amendment to the site plan. Just real quickly show you what was previously approved. The roundabout here had the wetland impacts of 1,600 square feet of wetland impacts associated with that. None of the roundabout nor the entrance up to this point is not changing from what the existing site plan approval is. As you can see, so the site plan approval is for phase 1 of the project, and this is the currently approved site plan. And there would be a phase 2 that would happen here, but it's all within the paved parking lot. There would be buildings and potentially a parking deck associated with it. really the biggest, the changes to the project are reconfiguring the site. So the original site plan approval has the residential component up in this quadrant, and then the rest of the uses are to the south of that. So this was the original residential component, and this office building and a hotel here. And so what this does is allow the residential use to be built without a dedicated parking garage. There will be parking underneath the building for one level, under the residential portion, and so the modified or the amended site plan will have the 224 unit residential component, 120 room hotel building, and then 7,600 square foot restaurant.
So the office space is gone
From phase one,
from
correct.
phase one.
And then phase two in this scenario would occur up in this upper left-hand quadrant of the site. We'll have to come back, whatever mix that takes on, we'll have to come back to the planning board for a site plan approval for that phase two when the time comes. At the time of the original site plan approval, there was a condition to address 4 comments from the Conservation Commission. I'll just run through those real quickly, paraphrasing from the comments. The first was that silt socks had to be filled with fully composted material meeting federal standards for Class A biosolids. A note for that has been added to sheet C11, the silt sock detail on sheet C11. Comment 2 was with regard to fertilizers to be phosphate-free and slow-release nitrogen compounds. That note has been added to sheet L1. That's note 14, planting note 14 on sheet L1.
Bless you.
The third comment was only non-invasive plants shall be used in the landscape design, and for the landscape plans to be regularly audited against the state prohibited and restricted species list. Doing a little bit of homework this afternoon, I did go through the planting list against the current published DES list, and we don't have any invasive or prohibited species proposed. And there's a note to that effect, again, on sheet L1, planting note 15. And the last comment was that the applicant shall add a note to a reportable site plan that no use of salt or other de-icing compounds is allowed on the site, and only sand is allowed, and that was a condition for the planning board as well, and that note has been added to sheet C2, that's note 20. Aside from the site plan itself, the stormwater management system was designed and approved with DES alteration terrain. The stormwater management system itself has not been changed for this site plan amendment. The stormwater pond for the project is shown here, and that's unchanged from the approved site plan. That stormwater pond is an expansion of the existing pond that's out there today, and it's designed to be a surface sand filter. So it's got a 24-inch surface sand filter media, and it has 2 sediment forebays designed to capture the heavy sediment load to prevent the pond from clogging. There are under drains designed so as the water gets filtered through the sand media, enters into the under drains, and then is discharged. That's pretty much the changes for the site plan amendment. Be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
The parking under the residential units, is that below grade, or is that, say, the first floor?
The way it's currently designed, it's a semi below grade, is about maybe a half story below existing grade, and then the ground around it will get built up.
So within that structure, are all water and fluids like that all part of the closed drainage system leading out to this?
We don't have any stormwater connections to that underground. I think the way it's designed now is that underground parking is too low to capture and discharge directly into the pond unless it were pumped. It will be a tempered space. It won't be open to the elements other than the access points on either end, the northerly ends of the U-shaped building. So we don't expect to have much stormwater runoff. We will have to work through that with the architect and the MEP, how we're gonna deal with any drippings from cars and that sort of thing, so that's still.
In the winter season, there'll be drippings off the bottom of cars as they come in
Right.
from other. Yeah, just curious how you're gonna collect that, so.
Yeah, there may be, it may go to a holding tank that gets pumped out. Again, we have to work through that detail of the building design with the architect.
So is that dotted space, is that all snow storage around that little dotted area?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, we're basically just using whatever landscaped areas that are adjacent to the pavement that makes sense. So on sheet C3, it shows kind of a cross-hatched area in the landscape spaces and adjacent to the drives. Anything that's above and beyond what can be held on site would be, trucked off as needed.
You've got snow storage at the head of both those north-facing drives into your garage space.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to predict exactly where they'll plow the snow, but we're trying to, put ourselves in the mind of a plow truck driver and use the available space that we have.
Yeah, well,
For the 224 units, what's the parking requirement? How many spaces? Roughly, I'm just curious.
Let's see. The required parking, just for the residential portion is approximately 530 spaces.
Is that all contained with, around that residential section, or is it allowed to spill over into the hotel area?
Well, it's developed as a mixed use.
Okay.
So it can spill over between the different, so there's a mixed use parking analysis that was done, because there'll be different demands at different times of the day.
Right.
So that'll be shared, there'll be some shared parking between the two.
You're showing a dumpster on C3.
Yes.
Is there any curbing, or is that graded to go back into the parking lot too? So any spills or anything coming out of that, they're gonna come into the drainage system?
There's no curbing proposed around that currently.
It's just on a pad
It
that's
would
gonna
just be
drain
right.
towards the
Right.
drive?
Right. And the dumpsters for the residential use are, I guess they're more of holding areas. They do internal trash collection, and then the management system, when they schedule trash pickups, the trash gets pulled out. They have like a small vehicle that drags the trash and carts out to those holding areas, and it gets removed, so it's not sitting there
It's not really an
24
open,
hours
it's
a
not really
day.
an open dumpster,
Right.
like you see, okay.
Right.
It's a pretty flat site.
As I'm sure you all probably know, I mean, that site was originally cleared and kind of rough graded when the outlets were developed, so it's pretty well set up for, anticipation of this future development.
What's the intent of the 4-foot metal fence around the filtration basin?
We incorporate that as a safety measure just from keeping people, out of it. When it won't be full of water all the time. It's not a retention pond, but, it can hold water up to 72 hours. So, we just want to keep people out for safety reasons.
I would imagine like aquatic plants would grow like crazy in there. Would there be a plan to like cut and maintain that, or is it just?
Well, the sides will be mowed. The bottom of it is stone, actually. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
stone bottom.
Yeah.
We actually try to discourage too much plant growth in there because, plants grow, decay, and can clog up the bottom of that. I think that's actually a requirement in DES regs, is not to plant the bottom of a surface sand filter.
Okay, so it's more of like you'd see like with the riprap.
Right, smaller stone. It's pretty, if you go out there today, there's stone in the bottom of it today.
Okay.
You'll get some plant growth inevitably, and then the sides will get mowed, seasonally.
I'm just thinking of the detention pond to the right of the roadway going up
Sure.
and the growth in there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the wetland. That's where
Right.
that's where the wetland impacts occur
Hmm.
for the widening that we'll do for the roundabout. So, yeah, there's a pond in there that, is also considered a wetland at this point, and there's natural vegetation growing all through that, so. But that pond was built and designed, many years ago, and wasn't designed necessarily as a surface filtration basin, so it's not relying on that water to go through the soil.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
No.
So I didn't record any recommendations.
No, I guess since most of our recommendations the first time are now part of the plans, I don't think there's a whole lot to add, but I do think what we capture under the building needs to be captured and not introduced into the whole drainage system.
So the question was, how will they collect drippings from cars in underground parking?
Yeah,
Okay.
just to ensure that it gets properly captured and disposed of.
I mean, in some regards, it's really, no different than
Than
the
in
surface,
parking lot.
than surface parking
Yeah.
outside. It won't be exposed to normal runoff. You'll get drippings, like you said, in the
Yeah.
wintertime, or after a rainstorm, off the vehicles themselves, but.
Yeah, I guess the only thing would be then it would have salt in the winter.
Yeah, I mean, he raises a valid point. It's really no different than the parking lot. Yeah, so,
Unless they only drive around their own parking lot.
And that's really what the surface sand filter, is in part meant to trim.
Yeah. Like, what else? Yeah.
I think you've answered all the questions we have.
Thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you.
Do you have any idea the plans for phase 2?
I don't, I mean, the mixed use development, the CUP development allows for office, retail, restaurant uses to be incorporated. I guess the market will dictate,
Just curious, I don't
ultimately.
know if there's some forecast to try to get it in the next 4 years or something like that, or something.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any plans. I'm sure they'd love to develop
Soon as
it as soon as
possible,
possible.
Whatever the market will bear.
Sure.
Can I put in my request for Cheesecake Factory for that restaurant?
I'll put that in.
Thanks.
We like that too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can do this, I can work on writing letters, we have plenty of time, I can send them to you and you can. That way, eventually, you can get me going on writing up all the letters, send them to you for final approval, and then you can cut and paste and send them off.
You should have them all in your email.
I should have them all in my email? Yes, I have thousands of emails, I will
No,
look through
I
them.
sent all the letters
Oh, to
in
Matt?
one doc, to both of you,
Oh, you did? Tonight?
Just minutes.
just before it got here.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Committee, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate your help.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Guess we gotta turn the damn AC on.
Are we gonna require the,
I don't know. It's really up to you all. I don't think so.
no, yeah, unless there's question.
Yeah, Rhonda asked if we wanted to have, it's really something tonight.
I like that reverb.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm at a
She,
concert.
she asked if we wanted to have any of this printed and forwarded, and I thought just this sheet would be good to have in front of us in case we wanted to go over it, so. So I guess you want to jump right into old business, is that
Yes,
what you?
so no new business, so right into old business and chapter 111 updates.
Right. So basically, I took all our discussions over the last couple of months as to restrictions or not unpermitted uses, and I changed some of the category one of the category names a little bit, because now that we've gotten to where we are, I got rid of the direct connection to Wasserman. It didn't really apply completely, so I believe in the Excel spreadsheet that we've been maintaining, I've got all the categories correct on all the properties. If anyone saw anything incorrect or whatever, please let us know, but I think that's what we're going forward with. I then took all the restrictions we spoke about and tried to put them in a language that mimics what's in the current chapter 111. I believe I captured all the things we wanted to capture, and I did them by category so you can see. So essentially, the all category is going to apply to all the properties. There is there's 2 properties that have restricted hours. That's versus the 5 or 6 that used to be. And then we've got the passive, I called no weapons. That might not be the right name we want to use completely going forward, just to avoid people getting excited. Don't know if anyone had any better thought, but so basically it's all the same. It does include an exclusion of snowmobiles, because that was an exclusion in the Wasserman one, so I kept that. And it, excludes any hunting of any kind, so. And then the well property, I think we captured pretty much everything. It's pretty much the passive no weapons, but in case MVD has certain restrictions in their easement, which I think they do, but I'm not sure we need to call them all out, because it gets into structures and stuff like that can't be there, so. But I thought it'd be worthwhile at least querying the MVD and seeing what they wanted. I hadn't done that
Yeah,
yet, so.
they may have a policy that we could just reference their policy.
Yeah. So really, tonight, I just wanted to make sure that everyone, we had consensus that this is what we discussed and this is what we all agreed to, because the next steps are to have, town staff input as well as running a public hearing and getting input from the public. So, before we send it off to legal and get it really in the true legal language, so in case anyone has any changes or questions, I think this is it. I do have a question for you, Gina. When you went through the deeds, the more information we needed, did you see anything that caught your eye?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think you would, but I wanted to have it for the record, so.
I was going to ask, do you want me to get under Nashua to the Registry of Deeds and see if I can find the two that you had sent to Diane?
We should probably talk, okay? Because there's one approach for one and a different approach for the other.
Okay.
So we have two parcels. We don't quite have the deed information for before they became town property. They're both tax deeded. So, and we've been trying to capture that previous deed in order to make sure that something didn't get dropped or get lost when it became tax deeded. So we do have an instance here in town where something became tax deeded and its previous restrictions got lost, and it was quite a legal issue to bring them back. That was part of the Profile Drive property that we got, that large association so when the tax deed happened, all that restriction all got lost and then had to be turned back on, and the Superior Court judge says, yeah, you can't lose that runs in perpetuity. So that's why we've been doing this whole exercise, to make sure we don't lose something. And so far we haven't found anything, so. Right, I will review all that deed information, I just didn't get to it,
Easy.
so, yeah. Yeah, it's nice though, one of my work projects came to an end last week, so.
It's nice.
So it's just cleanup right now, and then that's that, so. I can get back to having one job instead of two.
Much better.
Well, thank you for laying this out. This is helpful.
Yeah, okay. All right, so then I will keep following our plan and get us moving to the next step. And I'm not sure if it's public hearing first or if it's town staff input, but I'll take a look. Matt, just for planning purposes, I suspect since we only have one meeting in September, that it could be a busy meeting. Maybe we want the public hearing for the first meeting in October, or maybe you want to do it in September anyways. I'm not sure if you have a preference there.
I'd imagine like most public hearing meetings we have, there will be very few, if not zero, members of the public.
I'm not sure about this
I don't know
one.
about this one.
It depends on how much notoriety it gets. So it's totally up to you.
Yeah, I think if we can fit it into September.
Yeah. So you may want to schedule the public hearing to happen after any project work, so that way people like the folks that were here today don't have to sit through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. All right, I'll let you know. I'll look at what we said we were going to do.
It's the 16th.
Yeah.
September 16th.
All right.
September 16th?
September 16th.
Yeah, because we'll have to get the notices out soon, because we have to get them out 10 days before a public hearing, so. Okay.
So this is something that has to go in the newspaper?
Yep, it has to be completely posted, yep. That's all I got.
Do they have to post the whole plan? Like the whole, all the documentation? They just post that we're going to have a meeting to discuss it?
Yeah, that's all they have to post, is we're gonna have a meeting to discuss it. But
Just-
we'll wanna have any information available for people to go review it,
Right.
so.
So will Sharon know, I mean, I would guess Sharon's gonna be putting this in the paper, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, so does Sharon know the wording to put in, or do we need to give that to her?
yeah, probably doesn't know the wording. We'll
Okay.
have to figure what that is.
Okay,
I'm sure they have some examples of it we can use as
Yeah.
a template.
I know last meeting, there were some properties on the spreadsheet that were listed as none, and we changed them to all because we felt that it was pointless to have them as none.
Yep,
Is that sticking?
yes,
Okay, so this covers every property then?
by every property, yep. So, I mean, if you look closely, there are a few little tweaks in here, so I looked at the current version of RSA 215, which is the OHRV RSA, to make sure that I captured some of the language that's now in there, such as, I mean, previously it spoke to all-terrain vehicles, but there's also trail bike, utility terrain vehicle, and they're all defined in the RSA. And then I added electrically powered bicycle. I wasn't sure if there was an RSA for e-bikes, but I didn't find one. I think there's some rules or proposed rules, or,
And DOT is really the only one that's making clear.
yeah, so. So then, and the other thing that I wanted to bring up is everywhere where there's authorization to, go get around one of these, I refer them to the town council versus the Conservation Commission, which is the way it used to be handled. So, since we have a mixed set of properties, some that we own, some that we don't, so.
Well, I think that's worthwhile too, because that'll end up, someone has to wait a month potentially to talk to us
Yeah.
versus going to town council, they can get an answer much quicker.
Right. Yeah, and I left the phrase "or its designated agents" in case the council wants to, have the town manager make the call. Designate the town manager to work
Yep.
on this. So.
Is your last note here in reference to just 4?
No, it's actually kind of across the board, so.
Maintenance.
Just, it's kind of a overriding the following categories opposed with the exceptions of these type thing.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
So it's, okay, so I think you meant, this is in reference to all of the, all
Correct,
of them.
right,
So however it's
Right.
written up, it's just gonna have some blanket exception for everything. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, and then I would ask the attorney to help us get that phrase or properly put it in there,
Okay.
so.
Good.
And I believe that's also in line with what we have in our conservation deeds. They all have exceptions for conservation or maintenance things. So,
Cool.
okay,
Sounds good.
Thanks again, Tim.
yeah,
It's,
Gina.
yeah, a lot of work went into this. I know. All right, that wraps up old business for us. Other business, one thing I got, I'm not sure if other business is the place for it, but the Society of Protection of New Hampshire Forests sent us an invitation. It is their 25th anniversary, and we've been, supporting them. So they've invited us to their annual meeting, and actually we've been supporting them for 25 years. They've been around for over 100 years. So they've invited us to their annual meetings. It's Saturday, September 26th, and it's in Guilford at Gunstock. So if anybody's interested.
Saturday, September 26th.
Yes.
September 26th is Thursday.
September 28th, sorry.
That's okay, that's a Friday. Saturday, I mean, yeah, okay.
That was the RSVP date, sorry.
Oh, like, wow.
So if anybody's interested, the invite is here.
It's in Gilmington?
Yes. Then, subcommittee updates.
Wildcat Falls met on the 13th, last week. We did discuss, let's find it, we discussed the update on the parking lot, and I sent an email out to everyone, and Councilor Pete Albert did send it to DPW. DPW said, Kyle Fox from DPW said that we did not have any paving projects this year that required the milling of the roadway. This is where reclaimed asphalt is generated. So we have a couple of options. So if the Conservation Commission wants the Wildcat Falls parking lot to be done sooner, Kyle said he could get a price to have it paved while Continental Paving is still in town, or we could see if Continental would haul millings from another project to the Wildcat Falls Conservation Area. This would not be free, as DPW or the Conservation Commission would have to pay for the trucking of the millings, even if they are available. So, something to discuss.
The nice thing about the reground is it's relatively porous.
Yes, the problem is they won't have any this year, and
Right,
they
oh
might
no, I
not
understand
have
that,
any new.
I'm saying paving versus reground.
Right,
I'd rather have reground, because it is relatively porous,
yes.
so it tends to collect less water.
Yeah, it's likely not to have as much oil reserves embedded in it that could wash into the wetland.
Right.
So.
So-
That's really close to the wetland.
Yeah.
Like inches.
Yeah.
Do we have any money if we wanted to see if Continental would haul millings from another project?
We do have large funds, so I guess it'd be worth finding out what the expense is.
Yeah,
Okay.
like that costs.
Yeah. I mean, it's not only getting it there, it's then
Spreading it,
spreading it and
Yeah.
all that too, so.
rolling it.
Right.
I mean, Horseville was a gift, because they were literally right up the street.
Right.
So we saved the money for having to haul that away by hauling it to right there, which was, 100 yards.
Right.
So it was you can't use that price tag to judge anything else.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of road projects in town, and I mistakenly assumed that, because the roads were being ripped up, that would be qualified as recycled asphalt, but apparently it is not, so I don't know what happens to all of that stuff, but, so I guess the question is, do you think it would cost more than $1,000? Is it?
Yes.
Yes. So that is a lot. So how long does this last? Horse Hill's been going on a couple of years now.
It's completely dependent on usage and the thickness and then it gets put down.
And the base,
Yeah.
that being really close to a wetland,
Mm-hmm.
freeze thaw of the apron that comes right up there and is wet,
Mm-hmm.
that could, rise and fall and could just crack that stuff up.
Did they put any base down in Horse Hill?
No.
Just around the stone, because there was so much stone and gravel there anyways.
And they didn't put any sort of bed under it. I think the biggest concern at Wildcat is just the apron coming off Courier Road and getting around the rocks to the actual parking area. The parking area isn't bad. It's in and out of the parking area that's really potholed up.
So what do we do about that?
Yeah, but if you fix that apron, now where the reground stops,
That's
it's
gonna
gonna
be a
start to do the same
problem.
thing.
Yeah, sure.
It's one of these, you didn't be chasing your tail.
Well,
And
we
we
had,
still, wanna look at the size of that parking lot.
right, well, that was the other thing.
And that's still an issue. And boy, it's gonna be a good one.
Gonna be what?
It's gonna be a good one. To enlarge that parking lot's gonna be a debate.
All right, well, I don't know how much longer Continental's gonna be around, but, I guess I can ask Kyle. Can I talk to Kyle, like, can I send Kyle emails, or do you want me to communicate through you or Pete? Because I know you like to communicate with DPW. I know.
We only did that, so there wasn't, members of the committees and everyone all sending emails to all these different people.
Okay,
So there was a specific situation where DPW was getting, so-and-so knew this person, and this guy knew this person, and this one, that lady, and they were all going after the same thing, and it finally bubbled up to the head. It's like, wait a second, I'm getting the same request from 4 different people, and that's the only reason we said, let's try to find some chain of command,
okay.
so to speak.
Do you have a specific request that you would like us to ask Kyle?
Well, I mean, I guess at this point, Kyle has given us 2 options if we want to get the parking lot done sooner. But if we're talking about making the parking lot bigger, how soon would we discuss that? I mean, how soon could we act on making the parking lot bigger?
That would have to
We'd
go.
have to have public comment on that, because the parking lot that's there
Mm-hmm.
was heavily debated if that parking lot was even going to exist. And there were people that were very dissatisfied with the fact that it does exist.
I understand that.
So making it bigger is going to be bringing up some sore feelings.
Okay,
So that would have to happen long before a conversation with Kyle.
right. I guess I need some direction here, because I'm still new to this whole subcommittee thing. I mean, the parking lot obviously has some issues. So you guys have seen the parking lot, you know the issues. What are your feelings as far as our timetable of getting these issues done? Because you're driving in too.
Yeah.
You're in there quite a bit.
I go in there a lot, and personally, I've never gone there when there's more than 3 cars,
Mhm.
and I have a truck that doesn't have a problem getting in or out. So, I, for one, don't see any issues. But I'm not on a subcommittee that is there more often than me.
Okay.
And we've received emails with snapshots and colorful language about how unpleasant the parking is. The parking situation is not about parking, but just the fact that there's cars there on the side of the road. It's the kind of things we've already, we've already discussed here in public, so.
Mhm.
It's just gonna be a touchy situation to get going forward.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I do remember a picture where there were people parked on the road, and yeah, I remember somebody was
Well,
upset.
and then we had the bus.
The bus was kind of a pretty,
I haven't heard about any more buses there, so I'm hoping that that was the first and last bus that we ever encounter there, so. All right, so what do I go back and tell my subcommittee? No?
No, I would think that if there's an opportunity to correct the current situation, we should.
So-
I think we should separate the expansion of that parking lot from the problem that's in front of us right now.
Okay, so at this point, we don't want to have it paved, because that's going to put too much oil next to the wetlands. So the other choice would be to see if Continental has any millings from another project.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
if I,
and if Public Works is open to use those millings to correct the current parking lot, because getting them there is one thing, but getting them then rolled out and making it a functioning parking lot has to happen as well. So,
So we either need support from DPW or Continental as a single project.
okay, so can I send Kyle an email and copy you all and ask him these questions? How,
Yeah.
first of all, how much would it cost approximately?
I prefer that if someone's gonna reach out, that they reach out directly and not copy the whole commission, so we don't get into a meeting,
Okay,
right?
so I can.
Go
I
find
can
the
get-
answer and then bring it back, yeah.
Okay, so I can do that, okay. Super, thank you. I will get back to you. Okay, oh, and in other news, our wildflowers, one bloomed.
One flower?
One flower bloomed. I
Good.
think what's happened is we think the birds got at the seeds. So our plan is that those of us that do have some wildflowers that are the same as the ones that I planted at home are gonna divide up our plantings, and we're gonna bring them in, and we're gonna plant existing flowers that they can't eat. And then hopefully they will naturalize, and I'm gonna see how that goes. I mean, it is entirely possible that some of those perennials will come up next year and bloom. But right now, it's not looking that good, so, and I feel terrible, and that's why it's like, I'm not putting any more money into that. We've already spent $55, so I'm gonna beg, borrow, and beg some more for people to give me, divisions of theirs. So I have liatris at home, so I'm gonna go and plant some of my liatris, and I'll see if I can find people that have some black-eyed Susans and Shasta daisies, and see what we can find. So we're gonna get a wildflower garden going in there. It's gonna happen. It will.
Anything else in Wildcat?
That's it.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Cindy, any? For Greater Woods, I did reach out to the members that had, their memberships had run out, and they're all looking to be reappointed. So I didn't want to send an email to the commission, I guess, as maybe the Horso, where you brought them forward. I guess I could do that if that's acceptable. All right, so names and terms. Steve Marble, looking to be renewed until July 31st of 2022. And both Shannon Barnes and Steve Deslitz looking to be renewed until 7/31 of 2020.
And
As full-time members of the Greater Woods Subcommittee.
is Gage looking to be renewed as the ex officio?
I think we did that last
We
meeting.
did
did
that
that
one,
last-
yeah,
we
okay,
did that
that's
last
right, all right.
We consider that a motion, if I can second.
Wait, I was writing. What are we motioning here?
My statement was
Oh,
the
okay,
motion.
Okay.
Gage,
I'll second. That we reinstate the members as listed. If anyone's got any questions about it.
So you have some that are one-year terms? I guess I didn't realize that before. The full-time that are only one-year terms?
so Shannon is the representative of the school board Our charter at Greater Woods had her as sort of like a separate position, almost like Pete's the ex officio in a 1 year, and so like that.
Oh, okay.
Steve Desolets, he requested a 1 year term. And I think he did that the year before too. 1 year at a time.
After the meeting, if you just give me all the names
The
again. I'll share
secretary,
it.
so we want to keep him.
Yes.
Oh.
It's a very important job.
Yeah, he does a good job.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Wonderful. That's 7-0-0.
Mhm. That is it.
Great. No other comments for Greater Woods. We have our meeting coming up in September. I know it's not a subcommittee, but I think this is a good place for it. I visited the Scalar property last week, and a lot of the rocks are no longer where they were.
Again.
Yeah, a lot of them. And there's a lot of sign of people going down there and dumping. Looks like somebody had like a couple of cars that they pulled the interiors out of and dumped them just by the river.
Is that camera still down there? It was last time I was down there, so it was a little while ago.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone's reviewing that.
the last time I spoke to the officer that was in charge of it, he said it wasn't there, but it was there last week.
Okay.
So.
Well, we should request Public Works go pick it up and haul it out,
They can get to it.
right?
No rocks in the way anymore.
Yep.
And it's probably just on the town portion. Because it's just past where we put the rocks. They just went in just past that. And it's like, steering wheels and headliners and
Wow.
carpets.
Wow. Yeah, someone should check the camera. I mean, it's big enough, it had to have been sticking out of a vehicle.
They haven't pulled any footage of that for how long, I don't know, if that thing rewrites over itself, maybe, but.
Be worth bringing it up.
Yep.
So, hey, guys.
Yeah.
Or else we're gonna continue to have to deal with this.
And that parcel doesn't have hours restrictions. We're not proposing hours restrictions. Maybe we should. Although the town piece probably doesn't, but just so you know, if you saw headlights after a certain time, they're not supposed to be there.
Who saw headlights?
No, if they did.
If, after the hours.
Oh, you're talking about the
If
camera
there
saw headlights.
Yeah, or even somebody,
But you have to differentiate them from
Flying eagles.
from the flying eagles.
oh, right.
Yeah, but they use that front parking lot,
Mhm.
or they pull in and pull down there by the
Yeah.
runway. So.
Frustrating.
Do you, Gina, know a date of when the scout is going to be putting up the?
I do not. I saw him. He had me sign his fundraising. He's going to be doing the fundraising soon, and I said, let me know so I can put it on the, ask Cindy to put on the town website, and I haven't heard back from him. So I can reach out to him.
Yeah, that area last year, a lot of grass grew up in that area.
Yep.
It looks like the town was in there recently and graded everything. Because it's really flat now, and that pile
Yep.
that was in there is almost gone. And that was a big pile of road base, and it's almost gone. Everything, even that belly that was in it, it's gone.
When you go around the back side of the island there, that
Yes.
belly's gone?
Belly's gone. Yeah, and it almost looks like they round up or whatever, but over the bridge, there was a lot of growth that was
Yep.
growing in, gone.
Really?
Yeah, it's wide open there.
The bridge is wide open?
Yeah.
Wow.
So DPW was in there and improved the road,
That or our friend.
maybe. But unfortunately, we didn't discuss with them, hey, well, you're grading the road, can you put the rocks back?
Is it possible DPW moved the rock so that they could get in there to do the work?
I mean, the rocks don't go anywhere that work was done,
Oh,
but it does look like something big moved these rocks, because they're just like stacked up to the side.
well, the dumping is what,
Yeah, that's the more offensive part of the, equation.
so we're gonna have to schedule another cleanup. Well, DPW can do what they can do, and then we can do cleanup.
It made me think of our contractor that we had do the gates in Greater Woods,
Mm-hmm.
and if it would be worth reaching out to him to see if he would come and take a look at it and give us a price on putting up some game over gates.
How do you block the access to the boat ramp?
Plant some telephone poles and run chain in between it.
I'm not sure our deed allows us to stop access to the boat launch.
No, I'm not talking about the boat launch, just
Just the
To the right and left of
outlines,
it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, now you're back to like Jersey barrier almost, because you can pin them together and you're not moving one if it's pinned to another and to another to another.
there's about 12 of them lining already down there, lining that
Yeah, yeah.
brook access. Yeah, I mean, it made me think that
Yeah.
he did a really good job, and he's still around. So,
I just hate to put gates up. Because then they're just going, they're gonna just drive around another place, they're gonna take a chainsaw and cut something else down and just drive through that, it's. We're already dealing with people that always have a blatant disregard for.
yeah, it'd be
Private
great if we had
property.
somebody to help us.
Should let Tim Thompson know that there's been another active vandalism down there, and
Yeah,
that-
that's the right thing to do. Let's
Make a-
raise it again.
make another formal report, he can make a formal report.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it on subcommittee stuff and other property stuff. Anybody have anything else, correspondence or anything that they received? No?
Yes, I did, I received a letter from the Coverts, I know not everyone's in the Coverts, but a ton of training information and upcoming classes and stuff like that. It's not just Coverts, so I was gonna, I know no one gets the emails unless you're a Coverts coordinator, so I'm gonna start forwarding those out to everyone, just, cause it's UNH, you can probably get most of the same information off the UNH cooperative website, but this is all on a nice, concise email, so.
And our education budget is covered by
Yep.
the commission, so if somebody wants to go to something,
Excuse
you
me.
forward that out,
you.
and somebody's interested in one of the trainings, by all means. The next meeting, say you wanna go, and it's a pretty good chance.
I'll be selective setting it off so you're not getting spammed with stuff.
Great. All right, presentation of the minutes for August 5th, 2019. I'd like to move them forward with the following updates. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Gina. Well, Mike's not here, so we'll start with Gina.
Okay, on page 1, line 36, just to keep things consistent, let's capitalize the B in bylaws. Okay, the rest are just incredibly nitpicky commas. So on page 6, line 5, after trees, put a comma. Also on page 6, line 22, again, after trees, put a comma. And on page 7, on line 5, after the word spreadsheet, take that comma out. And that's all I have. Although I will say one thing which is not gonna get changed is going through the deeds for Greater Woods. The graders were not G-R-A-T-E-R, they were G-R-A-D-E-R.
Yep.
So, not correcting it on here because everything on the computer says G-R-A-T-E-R family,
Right.
so,
We've got spellings both ways.
okay. Interesting. Okay, that's all I have.
Hey, wow. Nobody else, huh?
Yeah, we didn't have any.
Great. All right. Motion to accept the minutes for August 5th, 2019. All in favor? Great.
Right.
700. No public comment. Starting with Eric, commissioner comments?
No.
Tim?
No, I guess not. The NRPC doesn't have its next meeting until just after our September meeting, so there's nothing new to report there, so.
Keith?
I do not.
Nothing?
Anything either?
Nope.
No comments?
Cindy?
Only that I'm so disappointed by all the invasives this year. I think I've said this before, but I'm driving down the street and it's just, they're everywhere. And the purple loosestrife is multiplying like crazy in the white pine swamp. Now, there's some other invasive, I think, on that, by the water, down on the road, that's like, so I mean, I plan to pull what I can. No, I know you have to be careful with the purple loosestrife, you know, maybe put a bag over it and then try to yank it out, but there's gonna only be so much that I can even get because it's in the water. But it's just, it's everywhere this year. Oh, there's so many invasives. I mean, especially the other one, the twirling one.
Bittersweet?
Bittersweet?
Yeah, the bittersweet is just everywhere that you see.
I have it on my own property, I'm dealing with it.
Yeah, it's just, phew, everywhere you go. I mean, big,
Yeah,
huge.
That's the problem, it's like, where do you start?
Yeah.
I pulled the whole section of my yard, I spent 2 days, digging
Mm.
and, trying to get, and you go back and look at it now,
Can't even tell that.
you can tell I wasn't even there.
Oof.
Like, that's really not very
Yeah.
encouraging.
I mean, the rain it's good we've had a lot of rain, it's just, but the invasives are just, but- so I appreciate that the companies are, making sure that they're not getting anything with the invasives. That's all.
I do have one thing that I wanted to say is I'm seeing a lot on Facebook, people are posting things about let me know if I'm pronouncing this wrong, the cyanobacteria, the blue-green algae, and how it is very, very toxic to dogs and probably to humans as well. So be really careful if you're letting your dogs in the water. They have spotted this bacteria at Silver Lake in Hollis. So I would imagine it's only a matter of time before we find it around us, so. Be careful with your puppers, we love your puppers.
People wash their boat, but they don't wash their dog.
What?
People wash their boat, but they may not wash their dog from stream to stream.
Mm.
Yeah, it just makes them so sick, though.
Mm.
Okay, that's it.
Great.
Second.
Great. All those in favor? Great. 8:03. Thank you.
No,
Some of them,
well, I have my street's kind of screwed up, how it's
All right.
formatted. So I literally haul the stuff out and leave it on the pavement. And let it, yeah, it's like days like today, it sits there and high and gets dry and becomes dormant. You know, cause it's,